So we're live, aren't we?
Yeah, hi Max. Hi. Nice to
Lydia,
see
there we
you.
go. There we go.
Yeah, everything is
Finally.
fine. It's fine. How's the weather?
Well, it's -8. I'm in Warsaw today, so it's still like, pretty cold. How are you? How are you? How's yours? I heard
Oh,
that
we
there's a
have
plenty of
a
snow in the Canada.
yeah, we
Yeah?
have a snowstorm. Actually, it's -6. It's even warmer, but yeah, it's a snowstorm today. So the
Oh,
morning
yeah.
starts with digging the houses from a snow. Yeah, it's very nice. Okay, so let's wait a little bit others to join. And I think we can start, right?
I think we can wait a little, like few seconds, maybe a minute or so.
Yes, yes. We can we can do anything. Yes, we have a very interesting topic today, and yes, we are limited in time, so don't want to.
Yeah, there's a lot of information to share.
Yeah, a lot of interesting information to share. Okay, I think we can start. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar of Mastering Security for Fintech Mobile Applications, Advanced Strategies. And I would like to have a sound check. So please type in the chat plus if you can hear me. It's very important to understand that you can hear me and Max pretty well.
Hello. Hi, everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, waiting for your
Are we
replies.
online? Are we live? So we are.
So yeah, if we don't have anything in our chat, so we think that you can hear us. Okay, let's wait a little bit.
I'm actually quite new to this tool, so I don't
Yeah,
see the
I've been.
chat,
Yeah, I
unfortunately.
see. Yeah, I see
You
the
do?
chat. Yes, everything. Yeah, yeah, we have a lot of answers. So yeah, perfect. Let's start, Maxim. Everyone can hear us. So don't
Wonderful.
waste our time.
Let's
Okay.
go.
Yeah. First of all, let me please introduce myself. My name is Lidia, and I'm VP of Innovation and Technology at Apriorit. And on our today's webinar, we'll focus on some biggest trends and challenges that facing fintech's leaders. We are here with Max to discuss essential security practices for fintech mobile. Of course, it's a very tiny part of a priori expertise, but it's a very important part. And we choose this topic because secure financial technology application is crucial to protect sensitive data and prevent fraud. And that's why I would like to introduce our main speaker for today, Maksym Itskovych. He is the head of program at Apriorit, and he will provide you in a depth looking for data protection, risk scoring, fraud prevention, some platform challenges, and of course, third-party risks. In order to make session more engaging, we encourage you to participate with us in the following way. So please type in the chat your questions during the webinar, and we will address them to Max or to me at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. And of course, don't forget about live feedback. Live feedback is also highly appreciated. And please share them if you have any comments regarding our presentation or anything to discuss. Please share in the chat. We'll be happy to see. So, Max, now it's your turn. Please go ahead.
There we go. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here and share a little bit of our expertise. So today we're going to talk about the mastering security for fintech mobile applications, and we're going to share the advanced strategies here. So in a nutshell, we have 22 years in cybersecurity. We have done more than 160 security audits. So the mobile application security is a common practice, but fintech have slightly specific fields. And today we're going to talk about the mobile application security in the fintech. So Let's have a while. Something to start is that the mobile application security is a narrow thing. So here you can see how the usual mobile application with the fintech work. So usually the application is a thin client. It doesn't have any heavy algorithms for data processing. So it just, a client to demonstrate and save and produce data. It also performs the authentication, and most of the data processing is performed on the backend and the APIs. So the most vulnerable and unsafe parts is the application itself and the application environment that runs the product, and the connection between the application and the backend. Here on the diagram, you can see the reverse proxy, which is a good approach. And topic is quite broad, so it was really hard to put 20 plus years of our experience into 30 minutes of presentation. So we'll just scratch the surface. And you're very welcome to our chat for a Q&A session, so you can keep on asking questions as we go. And we will discuss them later after the presentation is complete. So the mobile application stores data, transfers data, and processes data a little. Today we're going to talk about the security fields of the different fintech applications. So all of our advices that I'm going to share are usually applicable to different fields of the mobile apps in a fintech, starting from the mobile banking and ending with the personal finance and management budgeting tools. And the major question is, what does the mobile application security stands for? So this is the list of the topics that we're going to discuss today. Of course, it starts with the authentication and authorization tools, and application runtime environment, which means the security of the device itself that runs the application. We're going to talk about a little bit about the platform-specific security. Of course, the hyping topic of today is the AI-related security, the application data security, which is a major topic, and the third-party integrations, and we will also touch a little bit of application development environments, which means how the application is being developed and what are the best practices that we are happy to share. Let's start with the application runtime. So where is the most of the vulnerabilities come from? Aside of intentional risks, where the user is a hacker and the phone is rooted and there is an intentional willing to hack the system and extract the data, there are plenty of unintentional risks, like the user has the root access malware installed, or devices infected by the keyloggers and traffic sniffers, or even there's the capability of users to install the patched application version through a phishing attack. So we are considering that the environment is not safe by its definition. The device that runs the application might be stolen or compromised, and we are utilizing the zero trust approach to security approaches. So we will not talk today about the security basics like the injection protection or API injection, and we will go straight ahead to the recommendations of how to enhance the application security and how it will impact your customers' data security at all. So speaking of the recommendations, we have broken them down into the a little bit of prioritized list. So this list is prioritized by the level of impact on the security versus the amount of effort to implement. So this is our recommendations that you actually can start today. Of course, the first one is you have to use the pre-production obfuscation, which actually contains the code obfuscation to protect the algorithms, like connecting with the APIs and the data processing. And which is also very important, is to utilize the hard-coded screens obfuscation. It is really important to perform the real-time rooted jailbroken device check while the application is being run each and every time. So we will not go deep into how to do that, actually, because you can Google one of them. And there is a lot of recommendations in the net in our Apriorit blog on how to perform each and every recommendation in this list. But these are the third things you have to do to prevent the customers from stealing the data or compromising the APIs that you're using. So the medium priority is the integrity checks and the patching protection. So the application signature and the bytecode validation should be checked but during the runtime. And that's why it is a very popular practice to perform the regular application releases every 2 or 4 weeks. For example, all the Meta products like the Instagram or the Facebook actually utilize this approach. They perform very often releases every 2 or 4 weeks. And the reason for that is not that they are distributing a new functionality, but the new bundle, the application bundle, has a different checksum, and it's being hashed with the different algorithms. And each and every time the application is being started, it performs the runtime validation, application signature, and hash code, which is a very good practice. And actually, it is very important to force users to update the applications. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of customers and users who switch off the automatic application updates. And that's why you have to implement the pop-ups inside the app to have them updated, which is actually a security measure to protect the user's data and the hashing and encryption algorithms between the application itself and the backend and the APIs. And the low-level priority is also utilizing the self-logging with no sensitive data. What does it mean? So developers usually want to log each and every customer step to improve the bug fix and the discovery of where the application crashed. And unfortunately, most of these logs are being compromised by the sensitive data of the customer. And these logs are very easily to extract from the application once the intruder is capable to access the physical device and have the rooted connection. There is also the approach of utilizing the runtime injection protection for tools like Frida tools, for example. And that's why we also recommend you using this approach. These two additional advanced security checks is to refresh authorization tokens when the application goes in background. We will talk about this a little bit later, but it's very important because the most sensitive and vulnerable data is stored in the session storages, which is the token, the connectivity tokens, and that's why it is really important to implement the additional logic that will clean up all the session data when the application goes to the background. And there's also the specific device-related trust scoring approach. When you collect the data of the device, by what user is being logged in, what the device identifier is, geolocation and IP address. And that's why you can increase the device-related trust score to, for example, let the customer avoid the two-factor authentication at the early stages when he enters the application. So these are the three priorities on how you would definitely improve the application runtime environment, even if it's being compromised or hacked, by performing the regular updates and force customers to update them. And of course, the code obfuscation to protect your algorithms and API signatures. What's next?
Please back to the previous slide, because I think everyone noticed that there is a QR code.
All right.
And yes, you please tell us what it stands for.
The QR code. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Lidiia. I forgot about it. So my presentation will contain a few QR codes to demonstrate on for you to have access to this exact particular case is the OWASP mobile application security checklist, which is a little bit outdated. I think it's being published in 2021. And you can go for it, and this checklist is being published to help application developers, general application developers, not only fintech, to go through the checklist, and there are plenty of recommendations you can discover there. Thank you so much, Lidiia.
Thank you.
So speaking about the platform security itself, so there is a significant difference between the Android and iOS, and major of them goes with that the most vulnerabilities and security approaches has to be addressed with the Android, because Android has a lot of vendors and a lot of different versions of the operating systems and its variations. More of that, different Android devices, depending on the budget of the device or flagments, utilize different security risks with the trust zone supported. And there is a certain hardware-based encryption algorithms integrated with the Android. And that's one you have to consider, and this additional libraries that you have to utilize, depending on the Android operating system version and its vendor, that you have to develop and code and implement the additional approaches for that. So aside of that, Android is vulnerable for a malware that has the file system access, for example, or the key logging and the traffic sniffing. And unfortunately, there's a very few capabilities on how to protect your data from this kind of, vulnerabilities. So that's why all the data has to be secured and hard-coded and encrypted. And speaking about the iOS, for today, my personal opinion is the iOS is considered, for myself and for our engineering team and the Apriorit engineer team, is one of the most safe operating systems on the market, because it doesn't provide no root access for the regular application vendors. And it takes a lot of effort to be hacked, especially when the new versions of the operating systems are being released and the application is being updated, the operating versions. And there is much more
Max, I
hardware
hope it
security.
was not an advertising on
Excuse
on
me?
the iOS. They're not our sponsors for today. Apple are not our sponsors here.
Well, actually, iOS is also limited for developers to access operating system core. Since this is the advantage from the cybersecurity and the data security perspective, aside of that, it's very hard to implement some low-level things on the iOS. That's why most of the automotive things are being implemented on the Android, by the way. And of course, the Android is open source. So the only thing I wanted to end it about this slide is there is much more hardware security starting from the iOS 12 and when the Apple Silicon is being released. So it's quite safe. There are actually safe things. So we are not. This is the AI-related security things that I wanted to add. So actually, we are living in the AR era, and the AI defending era is coming, which means today is the fastest period of like adopting new technologies. So the new technologies are being adopted and integrated, especially in a fintech, while fintech is still considered as one of the most conservative from the technological perspective, most conservative domains. Still, AI is one of the topics on how to protect them. And last year, when I was on the RSA conference in San Francisco, there was the Innovation Sandbox context where the most cybersecure startups were radiated. And the winner was I don't remember the exact name, like Reality Defender or something. This was the startup AI-powered startup that defends from the AI-generated content. So on how to, prove and secure you from the deepfake scams, for example, and how to detect the deepfake and AI-generated content.
So, Max, talking about AI, I have some question. I think it will be also interesting to our audience. So, in your opinion, what do you think? What role does AI play in both cyber threats and cyber defense within the fintech industry?
All right. So, as I already mentioned, the fintech is still considered a conservative, but there's the automated cyber attacks that are being utilized today. There are the deepfake scams that I mentioned before, and there's the AI-powered malware that scans the traffic. So, really, I think that this year in 2025, there will be a lot of instruments that will prevent the fraud detection and prevention and the threat intelligence. And also, I think the behavioral analysis in a cybersecurity defense will play a significant role, especially in the machine learning era. We are not talking about the large language systems.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, the new era is coming, and we need to learn on how to do that. So, but there's actually, as we are talking about the threats themselves, there are a few relatively safe things that you can rely on building the mobile application in fintech. First of all, is the biometric authentication. From our perspective and from our engineers' perspective, this is the thing that you can really trust because it takes a lot of effort to be hacked as the matter of the hardware-based encryption. The device lock screen that has to be avoided, so engage your customers to lock their devices. The Apple Pay and Google Pay actually are quite safe as well. However, our engineers were capable to reverse engineer the Google Pay feature and extract the list of transactions. However, still, we were not capable to perform any operations. So we are considering Apple Pay and Google Pay are the safe technologies, and NFC, of course. And most of the safety in regards of the NFC comes with its very low range of low distance of operation. So it's really hard to get it hacked. That's why these are the things that you can truly rely on. And of course, take a look on the mobile application security cheat sheet by OWASP that I'm sharing right now on the screen. So we are coming to the most important thing, and the most important topic of our presentation is the data security. So there's three types of data, as usual: the data in rest, and data in use, and data in transit, and we will discuss each and every of them separately. So the data in rest, what does apply? What do we apply to? What do we mean by the data in rest for the mobile application? So it's the application settings, the application key store, the local database, and the file storage. So all these things that stays if customer logs out or even shut down the application and restart device, it means which data is being stored in the on the device. So actually, the okay data that you can store is like the general application settings. These are not sensitive like the language settings or the dark theme of the application. Every other things are like potentially vulnerable. So we encourage you to avoid storing any sensitive data in the data in rest, or at least using the encryption algorithms. So avoid using any downloadable files or storing in the application sandbox any downloadable files like statements, for example, that include the sensitive data of the customer. So don't store any data related to user accounts or bank accounts and transactions list in the database. And any session-related data should be stored in the key store. And we will talk a little bit later on how to secure the key store and which are the best practices. So speaking about the data in rest, our recommendation would be next. So of course, there is the advantage of developing the application to make it work offline. Like, there might be a connectivity issues, and you store the list or the queue of user actions when the application comes back to online mode to perform them with the API. Unfortunately, this is not the fintech case. So all the fintech applications should avoid offline mode as much as possible. You should implement any additional security measures, especially for the SQLite RDBMS, which is quite popular, but it's known for its vulnerabilities. It's very easy to use. We highly recommend encrypting sensitive data with the hardware encryption algorithms. There is the hardware-backed key store for Android and Strongbox Keymaster. Unfortunately, it's available only for selected devices on the App Store for the Android. And there's the security enclave for iOS, which you actually can use and utilize. It's a normal practice to store tokens and shared API keys in the encrypted key store. However, it's a very very popular thing to use the MD5 and SHA-1 hashing and the RC4 encryption algorithms. Unfortunately, these algorithms are considered as outdated, and we encourage you to utilize the AES, RSC, and SDSC algorithms with more than 128-bit code. So the 256-bit is recommended. For my perspective today, it will not affect the performance of the device. So some of the VPNs also utilize this approach. So yeah, these are the current recommendations that we encourage you to use to protect your data in rest.
Oh, thank you, Max. Regarding the algorithm, yes, nowadays we hear a lot about quantum computing. So, on your opinion, is there any news about post-quantum cryptography algorithm for mobiles in order to protect the data, sensitive data from future quantum attacks?
Well, there is. Actually, quantum and post-quantum algorithms are still experimental due to a high CPU performance requirement. They are being used in a few VPN clients, from what I know. Also, there is the chat, the chat room called Signal, the application called Signal. From what I know, they also use the post-quantum encryption algorithms. However, it's only for it's a messenger, and it still doesn't require a lot of efforts to a lot of CPU performance. So I think it's a matter of the future. However, for today, most of the widely used encryption algorithms are still the RSA and AES. So yes, post-quantum encryption algorithms are coming, but they are still not that popular.
Thank you. Regarding the RSA, exactly has the same.
Yeah,
with me every day.
Yeah, we are visiting the RSA this year, by the way. Hopefully to see you, ladies and gentlemen, there.
Yeah, sure.
So let's move forward. Give me a second, please. I think it's still loading. Okay, so the data in use. What does the data in use stand for? It's every data that is stored in the RAM, which is potentially vulnerable for the RAM dump, like the encrypted user passwords, access tokens, and the fresh tokens. Our recommendations to protect your data in use for the mobile apps and the fintech would be to store session data in the encrypted key stores. So the session data is the most critical aspect of the application data security. And we highly recommend you to flush the session data every time the application goes to background. You may lose some user experience here, but comparing to the potential risks, this is the good approach to each and every time ask customer to be authorized and authenticated when he gets back to the application. And there is also the advanced security technique to store sensitive data only on those screens where they are necessary. So, for example, there is a list of UI-related product design best practices. And for example, if you store any additional UI logic to extract any sensitive data like the bank account credentials or credit card numbers or CVC code, to get them stored only on the place on the screen where the customer can use it, and clean up those data when customer leaves the screen. So you would have to implement additional security logic for that, but this is definitely a good approach for the runtime and application security and securing your data in use. Talking about the data in transit and the man-in-the-middle attacks are possible, unfortunately, there is no much capabilities to recognize if the data that you're transferring to your APIs is being sniffed or read. So that's why we highly insist you to utilize the reverse proxy. It's the part of the backend application security. However, to avoid mobile application, to avoid your mobile application from accessing the APIs directly and storing the API keys in your hard-coded API keys in your application to avoid being them compromised. As well, there is the TLS SSL handshake, of course. And there is also the approach to check the man-in-the-middle, to prevent the man-in-the-middle attack, to check the bundle checksums each and every time the application is being run in the runtime, where actually the every 2 or 4 weeks application updates come from. So again, if you utilize the practices, the runtime environment security practices that we described before, they will indirectly secure your data from being hacked while it's in transit. So we have talked about the data security a little bit. So let's talk about the third-party integrations. From here, I should say developers are lazy. And developers are using different development libraries to make their life easier, and this is where a lot of vulnerabilities come from. There is also the third-party authorization tools, which we encourage you not to use, and most of the fintechs, they implement their own authorization. There is also the Google SDKs and the customer support libraries that are usually being utilized. Of course, you will not be able to avoid the customer behavior analysis and the SDKs that utilize them. And there is the third-party APIs like EPIGI for the open banking, which we're actually using for a few recent of our projects, and payment processing SDKs. However, there are certain tactics on how to protect or enhance your third-party integrations that we can highlight. Well, first of all, there's the third-party library security general practices. You can Google that. Among them, like the regular third-party integration updates, the dependency checkers, and the library dependency pinning. Of course, write your own authentication authorization logic and make integrations through your backend as much as possible. So, which means if your application goes through the APIs and there's a lot of like third-party internal integrations like the CRM products or models, keep their integrations from your backend to avoid storing as less keys and access keys as possible, so that there was in the perfect environment, so that there was only one entry point to your API, to your backend API. Don't use
I think something went wrong with our connection. So let's. Sorry, Max has lost.
Hello, can you hear me?
He's here. Good.
Yeah,
Good, Max.
I'm back.
Perfect. Too
There we
fast.
go. Yeah, there we go. So watch for regular library updates, and there is also the vulnerability of the WebView-based solutions, and it's your responsibility as the application developer to get those solutions and utilization secure. So mind the cross-scripting threat and the CRLF injection. So these are the major recommendations. So read carefully what libraries you're utilizing and implement the third-party library security general practices. There is also one topic left that I would call the application development environment security that actually most of the engineers often forget of. So what does it stand for? It stands for that you have an engineering team, and this engineering team also have to follow the best practices to have your application secure. So first of all, apply the general incident management approach the same way as you do with your web solutions. The only difference is that you can't immediately release a new version of the application, so it takes time for the App Store and Google Store and Google Play Market to verify the new version of the app, and you have to mind that. So the release process is slightly different, and you are not able to be hands on it. We encourage you to protect your developers' workstations with the CEM systems installed. Avoid hard coding where possible, and have your configuration files, a pre-release configuration files, where the things and hard-coded keys and credentials are being stored, because they are potentially compromised for reverse engineering. Establish security benchmarks, which is a general practice for an enterprise level products, like regular security audits, and especially external security audits, CI/CD and continuous integration pipeline implementation, and cybersecurity should be part of it. So also introduce the development routines that will help you to integrate the secure software development lifecycle standard, among which, of course, the separate environments for staging and production and for quality assurance testing. There are certain coding standards like, the static code analysis instruments, all of them being done online. Some of them might be integrated in your continuous integration pipeline process. And most of them are capable to be integrated with IDE among all your engineers. So it's your duty as the engineers, if there are any CTOs among us. So this would be a really good approach to do that and introduce security audits to your routine. And also there is a really advanced cybersecurity approach where if you have to store any specific algorithms on the mobile apps, to precompile them in the separate modules and perform the runtime checksum verification when the application is being run. But again, this has to be done on a regular, production and deployment procedure every 2 or 4 weeks when the checksum is being qualified. It gives additional attention to an additional time and effort for deployment procedures. So there's always a balance between the security in the development environment and the go-to-market strategies with the releasing in new versions. There are a few cybersecurity cases that I wanted to share. Unfortunately, we don't have much time left to discuss on that. So we've been engaged in the Saudi Arabia government application security audit, including integrating with 7 ministries. We've been part of the bug bounty for the second largest neobank in the Ukraine, serving about 8 million active users. And we've been developing the US-based data and rest storage product with unique quantum encryption algorithms. And after the security audits, there are this certain list of common mistakes, I would call it, that we want to highlight today. Among them, there's plenty of hard-coded strings that are not being obfuscated. Again, there are the certain libraries that help you, especially if you integrate them to your CI/CD pipeline, that will perform the obfuscation. Speaking about the sensitive data and session management, when the sensitive data is not being programmatically cleaned up, which is also very important, there is a lot of hard-coded keys for data encryption in the packages, in the public and published packages. And sometimes we got hard-coded credentials for the bug report system and logging system from the developers, which is not crucial, but it's not critical. However, there is, and there was also an issue with a lot of sensitive data stored in the file storage, and of course the MD5. The MD5 is being used everywhere. However, for today it's being considered as outdated in the early 2000s. So we recommend to avoid the MD5 hashing at all because it's potentially vulnerable. Summarizing my speech, unfortunately, there is no 100% secure solution. So you can't make your product 100% secure. Even if you upload the bundle of your application, put it on the USB drive and, hide it in your personal safe, it's still under the vulnerability of being stolen. Yeah.
Oh, Max, but if someone can brute force the code to the safe and take the USB key out of it, so yeah, he can get the data very quickly. So you're right, there is no possible to make 100%.
Absolutely
solution.
not. Absolutely not. You can hear a lot of stories of like huge products on the market, huge fintech products on the market being compromised, like the Revolut, as an example. A few months ago, there was shouting situation with their cybersecurity leak, huge transaction being made, a lot of blockchain and blockchain products being compromised. So there is no way to make a 100% safe solution at all. So users always suffer from too much security. So your role is to balance between the go-to-market and the security and take risks and make it responsibly. So we recommend you to prioritize risk. You have to have a risk list, to have them prioritize and keep that focus. Especially, of course, you will have to teach your users with application security. So because the mobile application, especially in the fintech, according to the application environment, is vulnerable for the users. The cell phone might be stolen, or the user might install the malware, or there is the capability of avoiding the lock screens. So big industry players, they pay attention to teaching their users with the best cybersecurity practices, especially with the scam attacks. So keep that in mind as well. Unfortunately, it's not a technical issue, but you have to keep that in focus. So do regular external audits. And here in Apriorit, we did plenty of them. Do penetration testing audits as well. So this is the normal practice, and learn as you go and keep your security focus. And I'm quite sure everything will be okay. I wish you all the best. That's it for me. And if we have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Aside of that, I wanted to make a little bit of disclaimer. So this is the first webinar on the fintech security, talking about the mobile application as in particular. So please share any topics that you want to be covered in details with our cybersecurity engineers, And we will definitely do that either with the articles or publications on our LinkedIn profiles or in our cybersecurity blogs, or even we can share additional information with the very specific webinars during the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Max.
And
Thank you so much for such interesting and such useful presentation for today. And yes, we do have some questions
all
right now.
right.
So yeah, I would like to give you a little bit seconds of rest. And now here go. The question is, can you please let me know what kind of additional security can we enforce apply over SQLite or DBMS?
Well, there's no silver bullet, of course, and the general practices are encrypting the data, especially the sensitive data that you store. But it's the same approach as for any other RDBMS. So yeah, avoid storing sensitive data in your local application database, and keep any data encrypted.
Yeah, and I also would like to add that SQLite doesn't provide built-in encryption by default, but you can use like SQL chip here or SQLite encryption extensions, yes, for additional encryption. Or, for example, you can obfuscate the database. You can make sure that all communication with the database are encrypted, right? And you can give the least privileges access. There are a lot of things that you can do, but I think it's very important to understand what like you have right now and how everything is organized in order to understand what encryption or what data protection can be added to your solution.
Yeah, there is the thing to mention is that there is the fintech sphere is quite regulated, and there is the DORA that started this year, I believe. So especially in the European Union, so you have to use the best practices of storing and cleaning up the data in your local database. So I wouldn't say there's any specific approaches for the SQLite itself, but yes. So the next question is,
Yeah, the next question is so what is about Blueberry tools, solutions widely used in banks?
well, I think, to be honest, I'm not familiar with the Blueberry tools and solutions from my perspective. However, there is from what I know, it's a backend technology, and again, I'd rather recommend you utilizing the single API backend access for your mobile app. But unfortunately, I'm not able to answer this question in much more details, and let me get back to you a little bit later.
Anyway, thank you. And we have another question. How common are security vulnerabilities on web apps built within frameworks, Django, Laravel, versus web apps built without frameworks?
Well, actually, as we are talking about the mobile application security, and your question is mostly about the backend, there is no specific differences. So the Django and Laravel, from what I know, they provide the RESTful APIs approaches, and the vulnerabilities are being listed online, and the Laravel is being regularly updated, and the Django as well. So I would recommend you using the frameworks for the backend. Otherwise, you will have to implement the API connectivity security by yourself. However, if we're talking about the fintech security in the matter of the mobile apps, there is the TLS SSL connectivity that has to be encrypted, and the connection should have the tokens in it. And all the other approaches, no matter what your backend technology you utilize, it may be the .NET or the PHP, as we talk about the Laravel or Django, or even if you write your own APIs in C++ or whatever. It's the general approaches are everywhere. So the mind the framework list of vulnerabilities, because they are being published on the Django and Laravel websites with the release. And yes, there's no specific approaches in that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Both has pros and cons, especially when you use a framework. You have to be sure that you are not using the outdated versions. That you use the um, less updated version. And of course, if you do something on your own, you have to be sure that you use the latest encryption tools also. And it can be risk that if you are not aware of something, your solution can be more vulnerable.
There is a wonderful next question. Which
Yes,
one
yes,
will
we
you
have an.
recommend between native and hybrid app development? So, um, I will not, from the cybersecurity standpoint, I will not recommend the hybrid frameworks that have the JavaScript as a backend on it, like there was a certain libraries that we've been utilizing like 5 to 7 years ago, and there was the performance issue and the connectivity issue, but we are utilizing the Flutter at this moment, and all this cybersecurity stuff we are writing as the native code models, integrating in the application. So everything that's compared with the cybersecurity and the data security should be utilized. Well, shouldn't, I wouldn't say should it, but we recommend to utilize in writing as a native code or the native code models. However, the hybrid application development also utilize the hardware-based security keychains, and they also have capabilities for data encryption hashing. So there is a not big difference between them, and the general approaches are the same: to avoid hard coding, to clean up the session data, and to avoid to encrypt the file storage. So the hybrid application development definitely will save you time, and you will have the single code base for the iOS and Android frameworks platforms. But there is no big difference from what I know in terms of the the data security between the native and hybrid apps. However, again, utilize the data encryption algorithms, we use the native code models.
Yes, Max, I would like to add, because we are talking here in mobile and fintech, and for I think from fintech industries, of course, it's better to use native application development because it's more secure. The hybrid application development is a little bit about different stuff, but it depends on what you need to create. But if we are talking to our topic, of course, native application development is more secure. Okay, thank you. And we have one more question. So, what do you think about idea to not store transfer sensitive data? For example, what very good security services suggests?
Well, there is There is the PCI DSS compliance that you have to consider first of all, and especially in the terms of the banking sector, and it really depends on the region where your application is being deployed, because there is certain compliance requirements for different regions and countries. But as I mentioned before, I highly recommend not storing the sensitive data or and any way you will have to transfer the data. So there is the general approaches that I listed in my presentation. So yeah, just utilize them and mind the compliance, the TORA and PCI DSS compliance.
Okay, thank you, Max. I think we are already running out of time. So if you still have questions, feel free to ask them directly in LinkedIn to Max or to me, or write them to on our Apriorit .com website. You can find the question book there. So we'll be happy to answer you.
Yeah, getting back to the topic a little bit, things I wanted to add. There are the third-party components that allows you to store tokens and to delegate the authentication and authorization procedure. From what I know, and the best practice for the enterprise level fintechs, they all write their own tokenization and authentication algorithms. And some of them even utilize their own data encryption algorithms. So actually, it's quite safe to use this kind of components until they are not compromised, because they can save you a little bit of time from the engineering perspective, especially if you are building this startup or trying to validate the market, and your go-to-market is essential in terms of the timeline. However, my personal recommendation would be to mind your own authorization and tokenization models to be developed and stored on the back end, whatever it's the cloud or on premises.
Thank you. Thank you, Max. So I think it's time to finish because we are running out of time. It was great talking to you. It was great seeing you on our webinar. Thank you so much again. It was very interesting. I hope we can have a little bit more live feedbacks from our audience. And bye. Bye,
And of
everyone.
course, I want to remind you that you are more than welcome to asking this kind of questions in the comments area later on in the LinkedIn, for example. So we will definitely have all them answered.
Sure, definitely. Bye, everyone. Have a good day,
Thank you so
evening,
much.
week. Bye.